Welcome to another episode of the Swim Parent Live Show, where we talk about strategies, how you can help your swimmer swim faster, be more confident, and have more fun, right? And also, I share the many lessons I've learned along the way, and the mistakes, because there's been quite a few. Been in competitive swimming for 27 years, and you can imagine there's lots of mistakes, lots of lessons. But for those of you who don't know, we just came home from our elite swim camp that we did in Tenerife. And it was just like really amazing because a lot of the swimmers, right? We kind of like knew from like the online training that we did, and some of them obviously we like met before and we saw at competitions, or we've even like trained with them, here in Zurich. But a lot of them, it was the first time. And as you know, like when we put together a camp, there's a couple pillars that we focus on that make our camps, I would say, different. And one of those pillars is obviously we include the mental training as a key pillar in the camp to deliver an amazing experience and help the kids like set themselves up for the best season that they've ever had. And one of the things I want to talk about today is it was so amazing because we were there and we could actually see the swimmers, not just on the screen, but we had the opportunity to kind of observe them. I do a lot of observing because a lot of the insights that I get on how to like motivate somebody and how to make them better in the pool is just by observing what they do, how they communicate with people, their body language, how they react to when we give them like certain challenges and stuff, right? And it was absolutely amazing because they kind of just, then it comes, if you do something for a long time, right? It's like what we develop is like what we call intuition. It's like, it's almost if you had like the same kind of sales conversation over and over, like if you explain the same product over and over again, right? You just kind of know what the other person is thinking and what's going to come next. You're just kind of like a step ahead in a good way, right? And that's intuition. And so it's really easy to help the kids. And one of the stories, right? Just so that you at home, you parents, right, that you understand how important the mindset, the mental part of swimming is. We did this, okay? I think it was on the second, it was on the second day. So in the morning we had long course meters, right? And then in the afternoon we had short course meters, which we kind of focused on, doing a lot of like speed stuff, a lot of starts, a lot of turn work on the waters and stuff like that, okay? In the short course pool. And we had the entire pool, which is pretty cool. And again, you'll see like pictures and videos and stuff. We'll have these up very soon. We got like 20, 30 gigabytes of footage from like drones and like good cameras, phone cameras, like all kinds of stuff. So we're going to put together something really cool. But on the second day in the short course pool, right, we gave them a team challenge. And the team challenge was, so there were 35 swimmers. So we said, okay, let's say we want them to do 10, 25 meters underwater. We were actually thinking about doing it without fins. So it's like streamline, right? And then just do 25 underwater. We wanted to do it without fins initially. But we're like, it's like the second day. It is 25 meters. It's not 25 yards. And it's probably going to be a little hard. And remember, it's like a beginning of the season camp, right? Some swimmers came in quite good shape and others had taken like 3 weeks off. And it was amazing, like how quickly they were back in shape. When I saw them, like I remember like one guy, he was off for 3 weeks. And on like the third day or something, we made him do a 200 broken because he wasn't behaving well in the hotel. Well, he was behaving well. He's just like being a teenager, not being in his room and stuff. And he like crushed it, after 3 weeks off. I'm like, oh my God, I wish I could have done that. So I guess like, in the teenage years, right, they're like back into it really quickly. So it's amazing to see. But the team challenge was this. So we said 35 swimmers. Everyone has to do, in theory, 10 25s underwater, streamline, underwater fly kick with fins. Okay, so that adds up to a total of 350. 35 times 10, 350. And so not every swimmer had to do 10. The goal was for the team to swim 350 25s underwater as fast as they could. That was a team challenge, right? We gave them like 2 or 3 minutes to kind of like chat to each other, talk to each other. It was a mess because of 35 people trying to communicate over 6 lanes. It was, you can imagine, it's kind of hard. And anyway, we said, okay, we're leaving red on top. And we had like two of the coaches were on the one side of the pool, and then two of the coaches were on the other side of the pool, because you had to count all the time, right? Because they would like go, and you go like 1, 2, 3, and you just kind of count and until one side gets to 170 and the other side gets to 170, and then you got 10 more, and then that's done. Okay. And I told them, okay, we're going red on top, and I hit the stopwatch, and off they went. We got video footage of that too, like in from the drone with in a time lapse, so it's faster. It looks amazing, right? So you just go boom, 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 right? So you do 125, and then whenever you're ready, you do the next one, right? And you try to do that as fast as you can, so that the team as a whole gets to 350 25s on the water as fast as possible. And so that's what we said, right? Do it as fast as you can. Now, I don't remember the exact time that they had, but I think it was 8 minutes and 30 something seconds. Okay, 8 minutes and 30 something seconds to complete the 350 25s underwater as a team. Cool. Okay, so we wrote down the time, and then we had them do a little bit something else because they seemed tired, and rightly so, right? Because it's pretty hard. And we had them do some like drills and stuff for like underwaters, and then there was part 2 of the team challenge. And part 2 of the team challenge was simply, okay, we're going to do the same thing that we just did. And actually, one of the girls had to drop out because she had like breathing problems. And so they had to do the 350 with now 34 swimmers instead of 35 swimmers, right? And we just said the goal is to beat the time, those 8 minutes and 30 that you had earlier in the workout. And we gave them like 2 minutes to like think about what they're gonna do, and we said, okay, we're leaving red on top, and off they went. Now, guess what happened? Do you think they were slower, or do you think they were faster? Right? So they were a lot faster. So from 8:30 was the first round, and then on the second round, I think they were at 7:40. So they were like almost a minute faster. And they had one person less. So everyone actually had to do more, right? So why is that? So think about it. We specifically asked them to do the best that you can in round 1. And they came to 8:30. And then we asked them, beat the time. And they were like almost a minute faster. So that's absolutely, it's just like, it's bunkers, right? Because their physical abilities have not improved from like the first round to the second round. So ask yourself, right? And like sometimes when I used to do like workshops with adults, boring compared to like swimmers, competitive swimmers. It's so much more fun to train. Anyway, so like, we had them reach out in the air, and we told them like go as high as you can, and then you put a marker there, right? And then like 5 minutes later, we said, okay, now beat that. Okay, try to go higher and put the marker higher. And guess what? 100% of the room succeeded at doing that. And so what's the lesson of that? I guess like there could be a lot of lessons. And we're like thinking about how can we use that and incorporate it into making the swim training, mental training, all the stuff that we do even more powerful. But it's like we human beings, especially if we're into competitive swimming, like I can promise you, those swimmers, like they love a challenge. They really do. They love to be challenged. And sometimes it's like, hey, it's more like the angle of like, hey, I believe you can do better. Show me. Or sometimes it's like, well, I don't think you can do better. And they're like, I'll show you, man. Right? So there's different ways to go about it. But human beings, especially swimmers, competitive swimmers at that age, they like challenges. And so I think when we run trainings, or when we do like the mental training with them throughout the year, what we need to do to get more out of the swimmers is we have to like work with like little mini challenges, and we have to create stress in practice. Because if they're exposed to stress in practice and unexpected things and like challenges and things, obstacles to overcome as a team or like individually, they will not be easily thrown off when they go to competition. So I hope that makes sense, right? And I heard Bob Bowman talk about it when he was like talking about how they prepared Michael Phelps for the Olympics, and then also about like Leo Marchand. Like little things like he would on purpose break Michael Phelps's goggles at a not so important meet, right? It was like, well, he was saying it was a World Cup. So for Michael Phelps, I guess that's not so important. For a lot of like our swimmers, that would be like a huge opportunity, right? But he broke his goggles, and Phelps, he didn't know it, right? And then Phelps, after prelims, he went to Bowman and said, yeah, like, it was weird. My goggles like came off and they broke, and Bowman was like, oh yeah, really? So, it's just like, and in training, what Bowman would do, he would just kind of tell the guys, hey, we're not leaving until you do this 100-meter freestyle under 50 seconds, right? And that creates stress in practice. So we had the team challenge. They did as good as they could, or they thought they could. And when we put them under stress, we're like, okay, you need to beat that time. They all did. And that's just amazing, right? It's like so easy to do. And you as parents, how you can help with that, it depends. Like sometimes it depends. If you're driving your kid to practice, you have a great opportunity. Before you drop them off, you can help them set some mini goals for practice, some like challenges, some things that they can focus on right now, right? Don't always like worry about the dream and making the Olympics and the national team and the PBs that you're going to do in like 6 months from now. That's like, it's good to be clear on what those goals or like the dream is. It's good. But what's a lot more important that we're finding is actually what can you do right now in practice? That like literally like worry about this next set, or not even the whole set, but just worry about that next 400 freestyle that you got to do, or worry about the next 15-meter all-out sprint that you'd have to do underwater, right? It's like it's what can you do right now? And these are called process goals. And we're huge on process goals because they give you a lot of like control over how you train, how it's just, it's a lot more doable. It's like, how do you eat an elephant? So you just one bite at a time, right? Even the longest journey, a marathon starts with the first step. That's what it is. Like everybody knows it, but I don't see a lot of people actually really living it. Like a lot of these concepts that we use, people know about them. It's not that you never heard about them, but it's, do you actually use them? I have a good example. When I was in consulting for a little bit, right? It wasn't very long, to be honest. I didn't like it. But we had all these models about, the circle of influence, that you focus on the things that you can control, and everything that is outside of your control, you kind of let go. And, right. It's like all these like smart people came up with academically solid frameworks. And then we would go to like C-level, top level managers, and we would give them all these like tools and the frameworks and the research on it and all that stuff. But then I looked at our own team, right? And I just saw how they knew the research, they knew the papers, they knew who wrote the papers, they knew, they read the books and all that. But I looked at our own team and I just saw such a dissonance. It wasn't congruent. We knew all these tools, but we didn't apply them as a group on our own. And it's just so like, knowing it is one thing, but then you see like people argue and get mad at each other and gossiping. And I was like, okay, what are you doing? You're teaching all that stuff, right? You're like standing in front of like really high level managers and like pretending that, this is the way it is and all that. But then you look at your own life and it's like a total mess and you're not using what you're teaching. So, you know what I mean? It's like the same thing as if you're coaching, you got to have a coach. Because like if you don't have a coach, but you're teaching coaching saying, hey, it just doesn't make any sense, right? So everybody who's teaching others should have a mentor or coach, whether you pay for it or not. Like, I don't care, but you should have somebody like that just so that it's congruent. Okay. And so we know these things. We know that process goals are hugely important, but who actually has process goals before every single workout? Tell me. There's not a lot. And those who do, guess where they're going to go? Well, you hear about them later in the Olympics, right? And then they'll talk about process goals. They're like, oh, yeah, I heard of that. Yeah, got it. But you don't do anything about it, right? And that's for the swimmers, but they can't know that yet because they're young and like, they got a lot going on with school and everything. But we as parents and as coaches, we can help them with that. And it's really, really easy. It's literally like if you're driving it to a pool, it's just like, hey, what's one thing that you're going to do amazing today? Right? And then they start like thinking about that. It's just like, when I ask you to think about the last time you were really, really, really sad, right? When was the last time that you cried? And really connect with that situation, all that, right? If you're actually doing that, not just listening, but actually doing that, you're starting to feel a little sad because that's where your focus is, right? But when I ask you about, hey, what was the last amazing holiday that you had? Or think about the amazing swim camp that we had, right? With like the amazing sets, the PBs that we got there, the whirlpool at the end, the cold plunges, the laughs, like the boat trip, the dolphins that we saw, all of that good stuff. You start to like feel very motivated and cheerful. Right? And so it's just where your focus is. And so what we can do is we can help the swimmer because they're not going to do it on their own most of the time, right? We got to like help them to focus on that next process goal. What is it that they can do in this training? And that's what, right? That is one of the biggest learnings that we had during the camp. That's what we need to do. That is the essence of what we need to do because ups and downs, trainings, they're going to happen and all that. And not every training is going to be as good as the other. But process goals, man, I'm telling you, it's process goals. If you got any thoughts on that, obviously, like I'll be like super curious to hear like your experience with that, maybe thoughts that you have, even questions. Just drop them in the comments of wherever you're watching, and then I'm gonna go back to that and have a look, right? But that process goals, okay? This is one of the things we're gonna have our big kickoff meeting for the mental training on Sunday. This Sunday is going to be like a 90-minute session with the parents, with the swimmers, everybody there. And one of the main changes that we're going to do moving forward, we're going to hammer down on the process goals because, and there's so many ways, and I guess we'll find new ways also, but there's a lot that I already know that work that I got from like very good swim coaches, from like my mentor and stuff like, but also I have a feeling if we're really gonna do that with the whole community, we're gonna get like even better at it, and we're gonna find like very creative ways so we have something that works for everybody, because not one size does not fit all when it comes to like mindset stuff. But like what we do know is that when swimmers do have process goals, they will develop a lot faster, right? So we have to help them to have process goals, and the way we're gonna get there, we're still open to that. It's very similar to like race anxiety, like the breathing technique, the Michael Phelps breathing technique that I teach all the time. It works for 80 to 90% of the people, right? So we start with that, and then if that works, great, right? Problem solved. If it doesn't work, then we'll go to the next thing, right? Which could be emotional state control, for example, right? And then if that doesn't work, then we'll go to the next thing. Like could be visualization, right? There's many, but like we start with the thing that we think is going to work for most. Right? That's easy to do, works, and, because it's got to be easy to do. If it's not easy to do, people are not going to do it, I guess. If it takes a lot of time, people aren't going to do it. And I'm the same, right? So I'm not saying I'm any different. So that's why we're like big fan of like integrating this stuff into what we call NET, no extra time, into things that you're already doing. Car ride to the pool, car ride home. Under the shower, when you fill up the water bottle, like there's so many things. We just gotta do it. And the beauty of that is when the swimmers start to progress faster, guess what happens? They'll feel more excited about it. Like I remember one of the guys, he came to us with the 100-meter butterfly best time was a 105. He swam like, this is a season start. He swam a 102 in training after having done like a lot of workouts. Right? Like, he should be tired and all that, but he dropped 3 seconds just like that. And I see him like touch the wall and he go, right? So guess what happens to his motivation? Right? Guess how he's going to go home to the club, and like the choices that he's going to make in and outside of the pool. There's just going to be better choices. And so that's the way to go, right? It's not to tell them, oh, you got to have this morning routine and this evening routine, and you got to do the stretching there and that and that. Because that's just like, okay, hey, I know how this world works, and this is what you have to do. And that works very rarely. But what does work is help them get better results, right? Develop faster so they actually exceed their own expectations. And that kind of fuels the internal motivation and that fire that they got going on. And then as a result of that, they'll start making better choices, right? And they'll become curious about them because they're like, okay, hey, Karasek, that worked really well. Nobody called me Karasek. They used to say David, right? Hey, David, that worked really well. What else could you recommend? What else could I do? And then I know I got it because it's coming from them, right? And they start to see themselves as a successful, confident, courageous swimmer, right? Who like seeing that when they put in the work, they do get rewarded. Because you see, a lot of swimmers put in the work in terms of time. Like the time commitment to swimming is huge, right? You got your morning practices, evening practices, you have your dry lands, you have your commutes back, and you have your camps, right? You got the sleep that you got to get in to recover the body and all of that. The time commitment is huge, but they're not getting rewarded for all the time that they put in because they're not training as smart as they could, right? And that is just true. Like I don't know a single swimmer that doesn't have potential there, because like if you are training the best that you can and there's not like, I mean, then that means you have reached your potential, which I doubt you have, right? And so I think that story from the camp is good proof, right? That literally giving them a team challenge and saying, do the best that you can, and they did, and then telling them again, do better, and they did a lot better, right? And I'm sure if we had done it a third time, and I tell them, okay, beat that time again, they could have beat that again, right? So that is proof that it is mental, because their physical ability in one training doesn't change. If anything, they get more tired, right? But it's a mental thing. And so if we can start to leverage that and make that more like the rule than like the exception, God knows what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks and months, right? Where they're going to be if they just do that 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times a week. So that's kind of one of the big lessons that I wanted to share. There's more, and I'll share a lot more as we go on. And if you're, by the way, for the camps, right? So we're going to run 3 camps this season. We're going to have one for New Year's, and we're going to have a doubleheader, 2 full camps in August, also in Tenerife. And if you're curious about that, go on swimpros.com. I think that's the easiest. And if you're interested, book like a quick intro call with myself or with you, because the tickets for the camp are going to go, we give like first dibs to the people who've been to the camp. If they want to come back, which a lot of have indicated, and they're like doing the arrangements and all that. But on September 7th, I think that's when early bird tickets are going to go up for sale. The last camp we sold out in 3 weeks. So if you want your child to be, or your teenager to be a part of that, I recommend check out the page. There's a lot more coming. It's like what we have for now, but as I said, we got 30 gigabytes of like footage. We gave it to a video editor. We'll upload more photos and all of that, but trying to do one thing at a time. Okay. Again, process goals was a big topic for today. And if you got any questions, any recommendations, any tips, anything that you can share that kind of benefits everybody else, please drop it in the comments. Questions as well. I'll try to cover that on the next one. And